Hey guys, how's it going? In today's tutorial we're going to continue with Audio Spectrum Part 2. In this tutorial we're going to be covering how to add particles, how to add a logo that goes along with the music, and the music will also go along with the particles. Now the example that I showed you at the beginning, that one's a little bit too stressful on the computer. So we're going to make it a little more simple while still covering the exact same things. One of the things I want to mention that we're going to cover in this tutorial that we don't normally use are expressions. Expressions are kind of like a code that you add to After Effects. And basically with this code that we're going to be using in After Effects, what we're telling the code to do is, first we emphasize that we're working with the audio. And we tell it every time that the audio goes above a certain value, I want you to make my logo pulsate a certain value. And then close parentheses, and then we put that value that we want. That's kind of what we're going to be doing with the expressions. It's a little complicated, but I mean, I'm going to have the expression ready for you in the description below. So all you have to do is copy and paste it and you're good to go. So you won't really have to memorize the expression at this current moment. Later we'll work with some other tutorials that will allow you to understand how expressions are actually working. For now, we're going to continue with Audio Spectrum 2, and let's get right to it. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do here is on our projects panel, well, first of all, I'm going to go ahead and create a new project. So new project, and I'm going to go ahead and just save it already. So file, save as. And I'm going to go ahead and save it. I have under my YouTube videos here, I have Audio Spectrum Part 2, and under my projects, this is going to be my third take. So I'm just going to go ahead and name it Audio Spectrum 2, and I'm just going to put take 3, because this is the third time that I do this tutorial. So let's go ahead and save it right here. And then after that, the next thing I'm going to be doing is importing my files. So I have a couple of songs here because I went through different ones trying to choose the correct ones that I liked. So I'm going to go ahead and use this Zerryx song, and then the picture for mine, and then my logo that's right here. And go ahead and open, and those are the 3 files we're going to be using. The first thing we're going to want to do is go ahead and create a composition for this logo. So we're going to go composition and new composition. Make sure that we have HD 1080p as the preset. We're going to go ahead and switch this over to 500 by 500. If yours doesn't change 500 by 500, make sure you uncheck the check mark that goes right here, and make sure you also switch this over to non-drop frame. And then make sure under resolution, just make sure you put half. If it asks you, just put it at half. Duration, make sure you have 0.100000. This is going to give us enough time for us to go ahead and work with our song. And then just go ahead and click. Oh, actually, before you click OK, let's go ahead and title this logo. And now we can click OK. So we should have, I'm going to go ahead and fit it right here. We should have a little square that looks like that. Right here, you're going to see this toggle transparency grid. We're going to go ahead and click it so that instead of a black solid or whatever solid you ended up putting, that we have something transparent. And I'm going to just go ahead and drag my logo into it. And so the logo is going to look really big. Once we have it in here, we can right click on the logo, go to transform, and just put fit to comp. Once we fit it to comp, it'll fit within our composition, and then we're good to go. So now we're going to go ahead and create a new composition. We're going to call this one Spectrums with an S. We're going to switch this back over to 1080p, 1920 by 1080p. Make sure it's at 10, non-drop frames, and we're going to go ahead and click OK. And then we'll remove this toggle transparency grid. In here, we'll go ahead and create a new solid. And this solid, we can go ahead and call it circle. Make sure it's at 1920 by 1080, and then just go ahead and click OK. So now that we have this one that's called circle, we can go over here and go ahead and look for the word circle and go ahead and drag the circle over to our circle layer. And now you can see that we have a circle that was imported right to the center of the frame. But it's a little too small, so we're going to go ahead and change the radius to 275 and click OK. Now we have a larger, better size to work with. And we're also going to go ahead and add glow and go ahead and drop the glow right in here. And that's fine here. On top, switch it to composition on top. And then under add, just put none. So make sure composition original on top, glow operation, switch it to none. And that's it. We're done with this part. So now we have our circle here. And what we're going to do now is go ahead and add the spectrum so that it's underneath the circle, but it's also going to be white. So we're going to go ahead and right click here, go to new solid, and just go ahead and call this audio spectrum. Okay. So I made a mistake. In this one, instead of audio spectrum, we're going to go ahead and call this one, go ahead and press enter, and we're going to call this one white. The reason why we're going to put white is because we're going to be using different colors, and we want to make sure that we know which color we're working with. So we'll go ahead and come over here and search for audio, and then audio spectrum, we'll go ahead and drag it over into white. Now as you can see, last time we left it like this. This time we're going to go ahead and fix the audio spectrum so it reaches all the way to the end. So in this one, the starting point, we'll go ahead and put 0, and that brings it all the way to the edge. And remember, we're working with 1920 by 1080p, so then this second one, the end point, we're going to put 1920. That'll take it all the way to the edge here. And then our end frequencies, our start 20 is fine. Our end frequency, we'll go ahead and put 250. And then right here, this is where we won't be able to do it exactly the way it was in the tutorial. I mean, you can try it, but it might end up making your computer freeze, and you wouldn't want that. If so, we should probably save this like right now. Save it. So originally, this would be set to 2000, and that almost gives you a straight line. But 2000 is a lot of little frequency lines, like a lot of the lines that your computer has to process every single time that it moves along to the music. And we won't be able to do that. So we're going to go ahead and leave this at like around maybe 100. Or maybe even like 175. Yeah, so 175 looks like it's okay there. We can work with something like that. And then what we're going to go ahead and do after we've done all that is 175 maximum height. We'll go ahead and put this at 700. And then audio duration, we'll put that at 160. Or let's switch it to 170. There we go. So the audio duration is just going to kind of make it how do I say this? It's gonna make it like the audio does noise, and then there's a small delay before the actual pulsation starts. So that's what the duration is. And then from here, instead of like having it being a mask the way we did it last time, we're gonna switch the colors over to white, and then copy this one here, and we're gonna actually go over here and search for polar coordinates and drag it into the white right here. And under polar coordinates, we're going to go ahead and switch it to react to polar and switch it to 100. And that, what allows us to do is, so that let me go ahead and hide the circle, so that it becomes an actual circle in the background. We're going to switch this over to side B and leave it as digital. That's correct for now. And we're going to move this underneath the circle. Just make sure your circle is not visible at this point. And then we're going to go ahead and go back to our projects panel. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and work with our song. Now, the song here, what it's going to allow us to do, we're going to drag it down here. And instead of just leaving it like this, we're going to right click and pre-compose this song. We're going to call it music. And just go ahead and leave all attributes in Spectrum and click OK. Now what this allows us to do is that we just created a composition for this song, and if we double click in here, the composition is now to the size of the song. So we don't have to worry about adjusting the composition to the size of the song. It already did it for us. And secondly is if we ever want to change the song to a different one, all we have to do is go into the composition for that song, delete it, and add our new song, and all the effects will be applied to this specific composition. Why? Because we named it music instead of a different name that's going to later affect our expressions. So with that, let's go ahead and continue. We're going to go back to our white layer and go ahead and go to our effects controls and open up the audio spectrum. And then we're going to go ahead and select music. And with that selected, we can now kind of go through it, and what we want is to find a place where you see this. And once you see this like popping out from one side, we can go ahead and continue and do the next steps. So what we're going to do here is press Control D on your keyboard, and that duplicates it to white 2. We're going to go ahead and press right here. We're going to go ahead and switch over to this one in the bottom, and then we're going to grab this little, come over here and select like a yellowish color, just like that, and then grab your color picker and select this yellow. And then we're going to go ahead and change this up to maximum height of 750 and duration to 160. And then we're going to continue. Duplicate this one, come down here, and switch this over now to like maybe about an orange like that. Come here, switch this to 800, and this one to 150. Then duplicate that one again, come down to the bottom one, switch this over to more of a reddish color. Grab your color picker, switch that one as well. Switch this one over to 850 and this one down to 140. And then we're going to duplicate it again. Sorry, I made a mistake here, so let's go ahead and delete that. I actually duplicated the effect. So make sure you select on white and click duplicate. Come to the bottom here. We're going to select this red and come over here to like a pinkish color and select that same pink. And we're going to go to 900 of maximum height and then 130 over here. Come down here and duplicate it one more time. And now we're going to go into like this purple color. Click OK. And then that one, we're going to go to 950. And 120. And so now, as you can see, we kind of have like this cool little color effect that's happening through there. And we can now put our circle back on, and you can see the effects here as they're being applied. It looks kind of cool. I like the way it's starting to look. So from here, our next step is going to be to make all this be one whole. So we're going to select everything by holding shift. If you select shift, you can select all these at the same time. And we're actually going to right click, precompose, and then name this spectrum layers. And make sure it says move all attributes to the new composition, and then just click OK. So now we have all these in here that are our spectrum layers inside the spectrum. So now we can go back over to our project panel, and we can bring in our logo up at the top and just drop that in there. And I noticed that mine is actually a little too small, so I'm gonna just make this a little bit bigger. Hold shift so that shift and control so it stays in the center, and just kind of match it to where it's right around there. That looks kind of good. Alright, so our next step after we've done this, as you can see here, we have the effect going on. So what we're going to do is go over to our effects and go to mirror. And we're going to drag mirror over into spectrum layers. And right here where it says Reflector Center, we're going to go ahead and switch that over to 960. That allows it to go right to the center dot, because half of 960 is 1920. I believe, close enough. Anyways, that gives us the reflection just property right there. Yeah, that's starting to look pretty cool. And so now what we're going to do is create a new composition. So composition and new. And we're going to call this final composition. And just make sure it's at 1080p 1920, make sure it's at half and 10 minutes of duration. And then you click OK. And in here we're just going to add our spectrums, which is everything that's in here, we want it over here. And so now everything, you know, it's going to be happening in this one little composition. Here we're going to right click and create new, and then go to new solid. And this is where we work with our particles now. So we're going to name this one particles, 1920 by 1080, yes, click OK. And we're going to actually move our particles in the bottom here. And we're going to type in particles. And so this is where it might get a little bit different because you're using Adobe After Effects CS5 and I'm using Adobe CC. Alright, I'm back, guys. So you guys are going to be using Particle World. I believe that's the one that is in CS5 as well. So I'm using that one as well. So Particle World, we're going to go ahead and drag that over into our particles. And then this mess of stuff should come out. And as we move this forward, you start seeing these little particles that pop up. So what we're going to do here is go ahead and open up our grids and guides and just remove all these check marks. We do not want any of these stuff. Then we're going to close up grids and guides. Birth rate is 2.0. Longevity, we'll go ahead and switch that over to 4. Then under producer, just switch all of these over to 0. Just like that. And go ahead and close that out. And then under physics, we'll go ahead and switch this to fractal omni. Velocity, gravity, switch this over to 0. Gravity 0, extra is fine, velocity is fine, and we'll go ahead and leave it as that. And then the particles, we're going to go ahead and switch our particle type from align to lens convex. That's going to make it seem like it's no longer there. And then this one's we're going to put to 0.03. 0.03, and then everything else we can leave as is. So from here, after we've done that, we're going to go ahead and come over to our effects and presets and type in the word fill. And we're going to grab under generate fill and drag it into our particles. And so you can see now our particles are red, and this is where you can basically choose whatever color you want. I'm going to go ahead and go with white. And then just click OK from there. Opacity, everything else, fill mask, yeah, everything's good there. So now we can go into extras and go over to our effects camera. And as you can see here now, we have the X, the Y, and Z. And as I rotate this, you can see that it rotates in 3D space, which is actually kind of cool. So yeah, there you go. So I'm going to put all those to 0 now. And I'm going to actually come over to my music. Make sure I have my song selected. I'm going to right click, go to Keyframe Assistant. Where is it at? Right here. And then we're going to convert our audio to keyframes. Now what this allows us to do when I open this up, right click and then right click. If I zoom in here, you can see that all these are a bunch of keyframes that are going along with our audio. So our left channel we don't need, so I'll delete that. Right channel I don't need it, so I'll delete that. Both channels I do need, so I'll go ahead and keep that one. And so here is our audio amplitude, and we'll go ahead and go to our final position. And this is where we start using our expressions. Now, in this part, make sure you pay close attention to how I'm doing it. So I have my expressions over here, under notes, I'm going to go ahead and copy this expression. So copy it and then come over here to my y-axis, and I'm going to hold down Alt and click on my keyframe. And that's going to bring up my effects expression, and I'll just Control V in there and I can paste it. And I'm going to leave that at 10, and then just go ahead and go to Alt and click on the Z, and I'm going to paste it in there as well and switch that over to 30, and then just click out in the gray area, and that's fine. So now we have this that's going on. Yes, so that works. Now that we've done that, we can go ahead and close that out and close this one out. And so now we're going to come to our effects preset, go to magnify, and bring magnify over to our spectrum. And you should see this little circle that pops up. So we're going to increase our size by 1100. And then our magnification, we're going to put it down to 100. And we're going to go ahead and press Alt and click under the magnification. Paste our code, but delete that 10 and put in 5. And then we can select over here and deselect it. Now we can close this out. And our last step would be to grab our picture. Go ahead and put our picture at the very bottom of all these. Now, this picture that I provided, of course, you can use another one. It's just a picture of my car. I'm going to put it over to 50%, and then just grab my picture, make sure that I can select it, maybe even at like 25. I want to be able to see it. And what I'm trying to achieve is to have the card being, holding shift, have the card being like the bottom corner right there. Right around there is fine. And then I'll go ahead and add a 4-color gradient. I'll add it to the actual picture itself, and I'll switch the blend mode over to overlay, and I'll leave it like that. That's fine. That looks okay. And fit to comp, and you're done now. If I preview this out, let's see how long it takes. I'm gonna actually put this here. Or you know what? There's actually one more step now that I think of it. If you go over to music, remember that this stops at the end of the song, so just go ahead and bring this all the way to the end. That's the end of the song. Go to Final Composition and bring this to where you have that little line at. And then you'll right click here and put Trim Comp to Work Area. So now our entire composition is the size of that song. And we can now preview a little bit. Yeah, it's going to take a while to preview that out, but as you can see, it'll now go along with the song. You can see it there bouncing around a little bit. And then after you've done that, you can go ahead and export your composition and submit it in for your grade. Thank you guys for staying with me. I know this one was a little bit long, and it's a lot of new stuff on this one to cover, but I hope you guys learned something great and you enjoyed it, and you can apply it to other effects later in the future. Thank you so again for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.